Our next speaker is Professor Ruth Marquis. Ruth is an occupational therapy researcher at Edith Cowan University, and Ruth's research focuses on age-related well-being and social participation. She is going to speak about mothers' voices and their parenting support needs when challenged by alcohol and other substance misuse.
Okay, I'd first of all like to acknowledge the courage of the mothers who came forward to be involved in this research, and also my privilege to be standing here and to give a voice to their concerns. So this research was funded by the Commissioner for Children and Young People in Edith Cowan University, with guidance from a group of key service providers within the drug and alcohol area. So about the mothers, we had 16 participants, 8 Aboriginal and 8 non-Aboriginal, and this involved 45 children between the ages of 0 and 27 years and 41 under the age of 18. The mothers on the whole had very adverse life experiences. They had a range of traumas apart from child removal, domestic violence, sexual abuse being fostered, lack of parental role models, rejection by extended family, and it wasn't uncommon for mothers to have a compensatory child once the child had been apprehended. The point of apprehension was a critical issue for the mothers. They had strong and painful memories of the circumstances under which their children were taken into care. For some mothers, the apprehension came as a complete surprise, and others felt as if they'd been tricked or ambushed. 2 mothers described the trauma of having a child taken shortly after birth. Another lamented the lost opportunity to breastfeed her daughter, even by expressing milk. And mothers described the use of drugs and alcohol as a way of taking the edge off their grief when their child was removed. Mothers faced a number of challenges. Maintaining bonds with their children was one of the most critical issues, and they weren't always able to get ongoing information about their child in care. There were multiple accounts of lack of communication around what they needed to achieve to have their children returned. A lack of collaboration and clear targets confirming in writing left mothers disempowered and lacking trust in some caseworkers. Information wasn't always provided on the services that were available. They voiced considerable dissatisfaction about contact visits at unnatural settings, such as libraries, and the problems of re-establishing relationships with their children when siblings were in different care arrangements, and in reunifying families again when siblings were also removed. After reunification, the prospect of further separation can keep mothers and children in a constant state of fear. Finding the necessary community support mentors was a major barrier for most mothers whose previous social networks had been influenced by a culture of substance abuse and use. Finding and maintaining employment while also trying to schedule supervised visits and meet the requirements of random testing created barriers to successfully meet reunification requirements. So, mothers' advice to mothers. Bearing in mind that the mothers interviewed were possibly the most resilient and determined in pursuing the return of their children, study participants were motivated to contribute to the study in support of improvements and future supports of other mothers with similar issues. In particular, keeping records of meetings, providing evidence of having met targets, and mothers who were fortunate enough to find legal or community advocates found this extremely helpful. So what helped the mothers? Empathetic caseworkers, early intervention, collaborative goal setting, information on children's progress in care, and also having visits in natural environments and ongoing help to support networks within the community. So as in most human service delivery systems, the nature of the client-service provider relationship could enable or present barriers to clients' outcomes. This was certainly the case for these mothers. So in concluding, the mother's message to other mothers. There's always hope, no matter how dark or feeling like you're not going to get anywhere or it's not possible, just think about the children. They deserve us. And this is a horrible drug, and addiction is horrific, but you can fight through it. and our kids deserve us to be happy and to be there for them. Mothers also had a message for the community. Please, let us be invited back into society. Don't stereotype us. We need to be given jobs and trusted and having a purpose in life. So that is the end of my presentation, but I'd just like to mention some of the other research which is happening at ECU around the intergenerational issues with drug and alcohol use, grandparent caregiving, and the experiences of children, which is ongoing at the moment.
Reflect on what you heard from Ruth, and then I'll open for comments and questions in 1 minute.
If I could also mention, while you're doing this, that there's a full report on this study on the Commissioner for Children and Young Persons website. So if you want to really read some of the narratives of the mothers and some of the issues that they brought up, you can read it in full there. Oh.
Okay, are we ready for comments and questions? Who would like to ask a question or make a comment?
No, I don't know.
You need to use the box. Yes. Everyone has to keep.
Ruth, what sort of services and supports did the mothers find most helpful?
In particular, they found the rehabilitation services, which allowed them to have sort of live-in over a period of time, where they could change their habits, get really good support in terms of parenting skills, because many of these mothers didn't have parental role models, so they were really struggling to be able to learn how to bond with their children and how to raise their children. So in particular, for example, Sarana, which is a live-in rehabilitation centre, came up as one which was very supportive, and some of the other services, family and children's health services, women's health services. And I think possibly the most important thing for the mothers was that when caseworkers were relating to them, that these people had experiences in the drug and alcohol area. And in many cases, the people who are responsible for apprehension don't actually have those skills and knowledge.
Ruth, I imagine one of the really tricky parts in talking to people about their experiences in all of this is all of us who provide care for anybody who's involved in this. There's so many tricky kind of conflicting things to consider, and the health of the child, the health of the mother, and wanting to create the situation that is best for the mother, but the whole thing about protecting the child and how you make those judgments, but having to keep everybody safe is probably one of the hardest issues that we all have to deal with, isn't it? Do you want to make a comment, or other people want to make a comment about that?
My handball skills good. I think this speaks to the importance of good supervision in all of our practices, because it would be so easy to judge that woman who's abusing the substances, that she's making a choice of using substances over her child, and to stop some of that counter-transference from leaking through. I think it's really important to have a space where you can think and reflect about your own feelings, your judgments, so you can go in there with that non-judgmental approach that encourages the empathy and makes them feel supported. Yeah. That's key.
And these were the mothers who were the most resilient. These weren't the mothers who had tried and gave up eventually and lost their children. And then having that compensatory child, you still have the same issue with another child. So the early intervention in particular, and removing a child after birth to me seems, just there has to be another way to support those mothers rather than taking their child after birth, It's,
Now we have one more question over there, and then one in the last minute, and the last two.
Can I just say a comment on that as well? Sarah, Child Health. I'm always also a midwife, but working as child health nurse at the moment.
Wait, can you hold it close to you?
Yep. Can I just say on that note, where's the line? Obviously we want to support women. We don't want to take kids away. But where's the line of making that judgment? You continue to support and support and support, and there's chance after chance. And when is the time to go, enough's enough, and this child needs to be somewhere else? And I just find sometimes that line is missed completely, and kids are continuing to have to experience harm before someone will step in because they're too scared to take kids away now. I just think, and sometimes they're taken away too soon. I know it goes both ways, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge intergenerational and community issue, Any human service is not going to be able to provide everything for people in need. So until communities and volunteers and, people really address and, take this on, I think there's always going to be that problem. And I've never worked in the area, so I'm not an expert. So,
fair enough. Thanks.
I think it's a really important question that we deal with all the time. So if anybody wants to make a comment on that, please say so. Okay, we'll go to the person at the back.
Hi, I'm Vicky Tate, social work at King Edward Hospital, and I just wanted to kind of comment, I guess, generally around that kind of research. I also have an extensive history in child protection, and I think the position that health is in, health workers, all practitioners within health, we are in a very critical position to help child protection make sense of a mum and a family, because often she's completely disconnected from that organisation, and they will make decisions around a family and about a family without that strong connection. We have a prime role in connecting that. The women that we deal with, I've got a bunch of social workers here from King Eddie, from the Wanders team, and this space is the space they are in constantly, in trying to help stakeholder services, particularly the one with the statutory authority, to understand the context of this woman's behaviour, lifestyle choices in the context of her pregnancy and obstetric care. It's tough work and it's tough business, but it's our business equally as it is child protection's business to help us all understand what that moment means for that mum, for that baby, for that family, and how you can keep them together. And we need to be part of that decision making. We can't stop advocating hard for a mum and baby diet together. What does that mean, and how does that look, and how can child protection support that role, not see just as a focus on bubby and bubby safety? If that makes sense. That's all I want to say.
Does anyone else want to make a comment?
Sorry, the website. Yes, it's the Commission for the Commissioner for Children and Young People, Western Australia. The report is around 70 pages long, and it's very full with all the issues and the narratives of the mothers. So it was very much an in-depth study. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much, Ruth. Now we go on to Nettie again, and your 3 questions.